Captain America Civil War, a film directed by the Russo brothers, who also directed Captain America Winter Soldier. Now, Captain America Winter Soldier is one of my favourite Marvel movies, and to be honest, it was a film that was what the Marvel needed up to that point. Just before Winter Soldier, the Marvel films had become a bit predictable. The formula had become a bit tiresome. You kind of knew what you were going to get with a Marvel film. And that's not me saying I didn't enjoy them, because I do, I've always enjoyed the Marvel films, but it was getting to a point where you kind of knew what you were going to go into. And when Winter Soldier came along, it was so refreshing. I was like, wow, this is exactly what Marvel needed. And I was so happy when they announced that they were bringing on the same guys, the Russo brothers, on to direct Civil War. And I kind of knew deep down they weren't going to disappoint, because of how well Winter Soldier, how good that film actually was. So, and yet this film does not disappoint. It is without a doubt one of the best Marvel films released so far. It is almost certainly in the top 10 best superhero films of all time. It has some incredible action set pieces in this film. Some of the best action scenes out of all the Marvel films. This was a very well crafted film, and the Russo brothers know how to do it. And I am so glad that Marvel have also signed these guys on to direct the next couple of Avenger films, because these guys know how to create a very, very good superhero film. Now, this is a spoiler-free review, so I'm not going to go too much into the details of the story, but I think the actual theme of the film, the story I found, was very, very similar to Batman v Superman. I found myself comparing it to Batman v Superman a hell of a lot. And this film did it so much better. It just handled that story so much better, the way it was crafted. And I was thinking, well, why didn't they do that? But at the same time, I found a lot of the characters that they were inserting into Captain America Civil War, because there's an awful lot of characters. So, from the outset, that can be a little bit worrying. But these characters are already established, whereas Batman v Superman had to not only tell the story of the conflict between Batman and Superman, but launch all these other characters. And that was one of Batman v Superman's biggest problems, was it was trying to do too much. Whereas Captain America Civil War, it already had these established characters, so it didn't have to go for the effort of launching them. And so it focused on the story, and it crafted the story very, very well. I really liked how they did it. So whereas Batman v Superman was more focused on launching the Justice League, Captain America Civil War, it could focus on the actual conflict between Captain America and Iron Man, and, well, the internal battle of the Avengers, really. And even though you had all these characters in it, that didn't actually affect that, what the film was all about. It didn't affect the conflict. Also, very good performances all around. Chris Evans as Captain America, he is Captain America. Robert Downey Jr. was really, really good in this film, and there was a couple of scenes where I thought he really did a good job. I think his best performance as Iron Man is actually in this film. He was really, really good, and it almost feels like at one point this almost actually feels like a Avengers film, because you've got so many of those characters in this actual movie, that it did feel like an Avengers film at one point. But it doesn't. That's not a complaint as such. It was still pretty much a Captain America film, but there are moments where you've got all these other kind of characters, and you kind of forget that you're actually watching a Captain America film. But that is not actually a bad point. The film handled it so well. The directors really nailed it on the head in balancing all these characters with the story. When it comes back to Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, I just think there were a couple of scenes where he really kind of added this emotional impact to the film. and it was his performance as a result of that kind of helped this film have that little bit of an emotional weight to it. Because I do fancy the Marvel films in general lack that emotional kind of side, you could say, and I think his performance in this film kind of helped add that to the actual story. And the grittiness as well. I like what the Russo brothers bring to these Marvel films, is that kind of sense of gravity and grittiness. And this was a kind of, you could say, almost an edgy film. And my only gripe that I had with this film was you could tell that it was trying to pull back on a couple of scenes on the violence, and I'm kind of just wishing they hadn't. And there was one moment, for example, it's not really going to give anything away about the film, so don't worry, but there's a scene and where Iron Man, Tony Stark, he spits on the ground, and it was just the way he spat, and the fact that I thought, oh, come on, really? I mean, you could have just added that bit, added a bit more blood into it or something. That's just a tiny personal gripe. That, for me, doesn't downgrade the film, but you could tell there were moments where they were pulling back, and I just wish they'd kind of not, and just kind of gone full pelt with the edginess and the violence, you could say. But that, to me, it didn't downgrade the film in any way. This was a really, really good film all around, and I can't really think of anything bad to say about the film, apart from that one little nitpick that I had about the violence, the pulling back on the edginess of the film. Overall, this film was pretty much almost perfect, I would say. There was literally nothing I could say bad about it. Action scenes, going back to some of the action scenes, this, without a doubt, has some of the best action scenes in all the Marvel films. There's one that was basically in a staircase. It reminded me a little bit again of Casino Royale. That was a really, really good scene. And there was a scene with Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, fighting a couple of guys in a market, and the way that was shot was beautiful. I loved the way they shot that scene. And also, you got the airport scene. Now, I heard a lot of good things, good rumours coming out about this scene. People who've seen it before me, and wow, it didn't disappoint. It's a very, very good action scene, a very clever action scene. And also, this has what I think is the best Spider-Man we've ever seen on screen. He's in it. I'm not going to say for how long he's in it for, because obviously that would be for me, that would be a spoiler. But what you do see of Spider-Man, it will make you smile, especially if you've grown up reading the comic books or the animated TV show when you're a kid. Yeah, Tom Holland, who plays Peter Parker as Spider-Man in this film, nails this portrayal of a character on the head. He is perfect as Spider-Man. We do only see him briefly in it, but I've got a lot of hope for the new Spider-Man film after seeing this portrayal. Also, the music by Henry Jackman in this film, really, really good soundtrack, quite edgy as well. There were a few scenes where it was kind of like this kind of screeching, electrical kind of sound, and it was it added some edginess to some of the scenes, added a little bit of grittiness, you could say, to some of the scenes. But yeah, the music was very, very nice as well. Also, I really liked what you could probably call the main villain of the film. I believe was Hamlet Zemo. I think that's how you pronounce the name. Played by Daniel Brühl, or Brühl. I really like this villain. I've heard a lot of probably one of the only negatives I've heard come from this film is actually the villain, which is pretty. A lot of people have kind of complained about it being a bit too basic or just being there. I actually quite like the villain in this film. He's kind of in the background, you could say. He's not so much at the center of the film, which I thought was a good move, because this film is, like, when I went in to see this film, I'm not actually thinking about what the villain might be or who the villain might be, but this film was about the Avengers and that kind of conflict going on, between those characters. So how they did this villain and the reasons to why he does what he does, I thought was very good and very clever. I liked it, how this kind of, his story kind of came almost full circle, and it added a lot of depth to the character. I really liked the villain of the film. Also, the introduction to Black Panther is done very, very well. And there was also a shot in this film, for me, I think was probably one of my favourite shots out of all of the Marvel films to date. And for those of you that have seen it will know what it is. But it's during, obviously, the fight scene between Captain America and Iron Man. And it's a very, very quick shot, and it's a slow-mo shot. That's all I'm going to say about it. But that made me go, wow, it was beautiful. And I think that kind of shot summed this entire film up. And yeah, I'm going to be giving Captain America Civil War an A star. Yeah, this is a great film. It's one of the best films to come out of Marvel to date, and it did everything that Batman v Superman should have done. And very, very good film. I'm looking forward to the Avengers, because the Russo brothers know how to do a very good superhero film. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.